All right, finally live. Good grief, 15 minutes late.
Okay, there you
And
go. Boy, I tell you, the electronics aren't working right.
no, they are not. I'm trying now it's Hey everybody, sorry for the delay. We aren't going to be I don't think we're going to be able to broadcast this to Facebook. Maybe wait, now maybe it'll let me. Before I was trying to get on and it wouldn't. Oh, nope, it says nope. Nope, can't broadcast it to Facebook. Good to see you all too. So we were trying to get on this morning, and when I signed on, and I'm the one who has to sign on first because it's my easy webinar account. It came on and it said, "Hey, if you're an Apple user, the new iOS changes have made it so that you cannot use Google to broadcast on Easy Webinar. You have to use Safari." So then I switched to Safari and it wouldn't let me do anything. It wouldn't let me do any Facebook stuff. It wouldn't let me do anything. So I went back to Google because everything seemed to be working great with Google, but it's still not letting us broadcast to Facebook. So unfortunately, we cannot broadcast to Facebook live. We're not able to broadcast to Facebook live. So that's a bummer, but that's what's happening right now. Anyhow, so that's the problem we're having. So we're just waiting. Hopefully, hopefully we can get on. I think I'm going to put a little note in the Facebook group though that tells everybody. And my phone's about to die on top of everything, just to let everybody know that we're not going to be broadcasting to Facebook today.
Yeah, and
So
my email is completely wiped out. Can't log on or anything, so I had a hard time getting the link just to come in.
so yeah. So I'm just letting everybody know. Hey, Mary. I think Mary's here. Um, Mary, could you put the link to this webinar in the Facebook group? And that way people on the Facebook group could come in and join here. So hopefully we can do that. So anyway, yeah, so I'm just going to ask her on the here too. Just Mary, are you here? Type me a note real quick in the chat if you're here. Okay. Okay, good deal. Yeah, Lynn, get your PK under control.
Electronics, I tell you.
Hey, we've got people from all over the world.
I think we're now broadcasting on ZeroG Networks.
ZeroG Networks. Hey, there's Annalisa from Italy. And we got people from, hey, good. Thanks, Pavel. Appreciate it. Okay, Pavel and Mary are on it. They'll let our Facebook friends know. Because we're getting up to close to 30,000 on that remote viewing with Lori Williams group, Facebook group.
Man.
So we got a lot of people on there. Margaret, the reason you couldn't get on, Margaret, is because we couldn't get on. You can't get on till we're on, and that's why you couldn't get on. I'm so glad you guys are here. Hey, TRC, Morning Stars and TRC. Okay, hi from San Antonio. Okay, good to see you all. Wow. Okay, good. So it says we sound good.
Good.
That's good. Okay, so I guess we can get going, Lynn. We could go ahead and start. So glad that we're here. Okay, so yeah, so Derek said no picture and no sound, but Derek, can you hear me now? Hi, Cindy. Google and Facebook fight a lot, Cindy says. Oh, hola, Arnaldo. Bienvenidos. I just saw a news article my son sent me that they're going to have to start rationing water in the city of Santiago, which is a city of 6 million people in Chile because
Mm,
of the drought, 13 years of drought.
mm.
So, yeah, so everybody thought it was their problem on their end when they couldn't find us, and it was all on our end. Um,
Arnaldo is here from Santiago.
yeah, so. Uh, this is Ray McClure. This is not a new hairdo. This is just hair that is not cooperating today.
Ray, this is a new hairdo.
Yeah, that is a new hairdo. Oh, and hello from Mexico. Hello, good. And let's see. Okay. Oh, Mercury's in the shadow of retrograde, Tamara says. Um, Goodness, yes. And so, okay, Bloomington, Indiana. I went to Little Sisters Weekend when my sister was going to university in Bloomington. Um, Yeah, oh, Apple. Yes, we are having some things with the Apple. Okay, so good deal. Everybody's saying hello, hello. Okay, good. Glad we're still here. We're still alive. People were worried that maybe we died or something horrible, but we're still here and we're all alive. So yay. So that's good. Hey, Lynn, I'm wearing my Ecuadorian shirt today. This is a
I
shirt
see
from
that. It
Ecuador.
looks nice.
Yeah,
Yeah.
thanks. It's cotton. It's cotton, so it's nice because today is hot. It's
Yeah.
warm here.
Look at Tammy's message.
Let me see. Wait, Tammy's message. Oh, there's so many. Oh, Ray says, "Wow, Lynn, you need to braid that."
Yeah.
Oh, Tammy says, "With your teachings, I was able to help find a person in crisis. The police verified it with their bloodhound, and the person is okay." That's wonderful.
Yes.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's so great. Congratulations. That's wonderful and good deal. Okay, so yes, we're all okay. People are asking about the fires in New Mexico. Lynn and I are okay, and I don't think there's any fires near us now, although Lynn doesn't live far from Ruidoso, where over 200 people lost their homes. So
Yeah.
that was really a sad, sad thing. But anyway, so yes, but right now all is well, and the wind seems to be slowing down a little, which is good because it makes it hard to fight those fires when the wind's blowing, excuse me, at 50 miles per hour. And okay, so um, Tony says, I can fix Apple. I'm a tech geek. Hello to all from Arkansas. Okay. Okay, good. Yeah, I don't know, but when I went back to Google and got off Safari, everything seems to be working a lot better, although I still am unable to broadcast to Facebook and I don't know why.
Hmm.
Anyway, so I'm not sure what's going on with Facebook, but we'll have to fix that later, I guess. Um, okay, so Ian says, "Hi, Lori. How can you distinguish between subconscious and conscious infect of session?" Thank you, Ian. How can you distinguish be okay, so I'm not sure I understand because I think there's a typo in there, infective session, but the thing is, Ian, the way the CRV process and the structure is set up to separate imagination from true psychic perceptions, and it also helps to separate conscious from subconscious. And Lynn, do you want to talk about that some about how nouns play a role in separating those two?
Well, the structure itself is organized not only in intuitive stuff, but also in just real practical stuff, like your subconscious mind does not use nouns. And so you start getting a noun in your remote viewing, that's your conscious mind jumping in and saying, "Ooh, I know what it is. I know what it is." And it's generally wrong. Sometimes it's right, but it's generally wrong. And so in the CRV, especially during the beginning for beginning students, we just tell them, hey, anytime you get a noun, put it to the side. Simple as that. And just describe. And the rule in CRV is describe, don't identify. And especially when you get into the higher stages where you're working on people, it's describe, don't identify with. because you don't want to get sucked into their problems and their beliefs and their religion and their, and their whatever. You just identify, you describe, you don't identify with them.
That is so true. And there's a lot of other questions along those lines, which are excellent questions. I love the questions coming in. Fran said, what if your ideogram loops around and crosses a beginning part of the ideogram?
No problem.
That's just your ideogram.
That's your
And
idiom. It's
sometimes
generally your mind trying to tell you something, but yeah. Uh-huh.
sometimes if you get a really complex one, I've had one before that looked like a knot, like it was just so complex. It came
Yeah.
through really fast, but it was just like this.
Hmm.
And that can be hard to write down if you're trying to describe the motion your pen took on the paper. So
Yeah.
sometimes I'll just go squiggly and naughty and just leave it at that, and then I'll touch it for the feeling component. But yeah, it's if it's really, really complex, sometimes you have to take a little bit of a shortcut because you're like, I have no idea how this went, and you have to kind of how do you handle that, Lynn? Have you ever done an ideogram that was so complex it was like impossible to
Oh yeah.
thoroughly describe?
I saw Bill Ray one time do an ideogram, and breaking out the gestalts in it took him a page and a half. Yeah. And um, the one of the things that a lot of people don't realize is that when you do stage one, the ideogram, you're not really doing that to get information about the site. What you're getting is the gestalts, the overall aspects of the site. Then you go into stage two and you pick those aspects out one at a time and get information about them. So even if you, let's say you're in stage one, you get land and water. That's all you get. And then you go in and you're describing the land. And while you're describing the land, you hear the sounds of children playing. Ah, there's another gestalt, which is biological. And so the process develops. But stage one is just to get just the bare bones basics. Then you don't worry about the site. You just get the ideogram. Then you go in, and in stage two, you start worrying about the site. Yeah.
Excellent. And Lynn, you've said many times that it's a good idea to reward the subconscious mind. And
Oh,
so
yeah.
someone here is asking, how do you reward your subconscious?
Chocolate, chocolate. Also, just just at some time after a session, when you do a good session and you want to reward your subconscious mind, go get something that you have to do immediately, put it down, and walk off and say, hey, I'm rewarding myself by just hell with it. you know, and it feels good. Um, and you have to come back and do it later. But even still, you your subconscious mind is in a dark place, cooped up inside of there, and it doesn't care that much when it comes to logic about uh, a reward. When it comes to rewards, about logical thinking, altruistic actions, anything like that. It wants chocolate.
And so we, then comes the debate, is CRV fattening? And
Yeah.
and actually, so I have sworn off sugar and flour many times in my life, and
Oh,
currently
yeah.
I'm on like the 32nd day of no sugar, no flour, and eating only 3 times a day, nothing in between, with very specific planned out the day before meals is what I'm doing right now. And it really is helping because the weight's coming off. But I have found that there are other ways to reward the subconscious through the
Mhm,
body, right? Because the body's a
mhm,
link between conscious and subconscious. So I find that if I want to reward my subconscious through my body in ways that are not related to sugar or chocolate or fat or
mhm.
or food in general, that I can do things like taking bubble baths or
Yeah.
going for a walk in nature. Taking a break is a huge reward. You know, when you're just taking a break that's just for you, like indulging in a dance with your favorite music, or in a really good book that you can get
Yeah.
lost in, or a movie or things like that. Those can all be rewards. You know,
Yeah, that's
so
what I was saying. Take an obligation that you have and reward yourself by just postponing it, putting it off. Yeah. Uh-huh.
yeah. Oh, I have procrastination down really, really well. I've got it to a fine art now.
That's because you practice a
I
lot, right?
I practice a lot on the procrastination for sure.
Yeah.
That's one of my oh boy. And then also Lilia, is it Lilia? I have to look. Yeah, Lilia Schwartz says, Lynn, could you please repeat again both rules with describe, don't identify, but I missed the second one. She missed writing
Oh,
down. You
when
mentioned describe, don't identify, and then there was another one.
yeah, in doing targets, you describe, you don't identify. You don't try to tell what the target is, you just describe it. The second rule is when the target is a person or even an animal, really, um, you describe, you don't identify with it. You don't get emotionally involved. Okay. You don't take on their religious beliefs, their feelings, their emotions, and if they're sad, observe the fact that they're sad and report it. But if you start feeling sad for them, hey, get out of there because you're identifying with them. You're there to describe the situation. That's it. So the second rule is when it's a person, describe, don't identify with.
Very good. That's excellent, Lynn. Um, And then let's see, Derek says, Lori, my drawing is about a 3-year standard. I know drawing plays a part. Any suggestions? I'm not sure I understand that question, Derek.
3-year-old
Uh,
standard. Yeah.
uh,
Standard is
oh,
a
oh,
3-year-old.
you
Yeah.
draw like a 3-year-old? Okay, sorry. Well, I know that doesn't matter at all. There's many different types of sketching you can do. And when people tell me, Lori, I can't even draw a straight line, how am I going to be able to do phase three? I say use your ideograms, because a huge benefit to getting in touch with the target, and a lot of my students have discovered this as true, and I discover it too, is once you've gone through phase one, phase two, you've had your AI, and you're now in phase three, so you're officially allowed to sketch, right? You can use your ideograms. If you can't sketch, you can just place your ideograms on the page in the way they relate to each other. Like, how does the water relate to the land? How do the biologicals relate to the man made? And you can place your ideograms, do a really fast sketch, just putting ideograms where they belong on the page and the way that they relate to each other. And we call that an ideogrammic sketch, but it works great. And you don't need any artistic talent to do it whatsoever.
Mhm.
Do you want to add to that, Lynn? I think you probably could
Yeah, I have
embellish.
one student over in France who for his sketches, whether it's stage 3 sketch or stage 6 or even sketches, in the other stages, uh, yeah, he does placement of ideograms, and and he's very highly accurate about it. And he will say, oh, here's the activity, here's the land, here's the water, and all that. And then he will say at point number 3 is the activity, and he'll go describe the activity. Yeah, and that's what he uses for sketches. He's highly accurate.
It really helps too, from the viewer standpoint. It helps you kind of go, oh yeah, I think that the water's here and the land's over there, and then there's this big man-made thing, and then there, and you can kind of, it almost just sticks you right in the aesthetic impact where you are kind of living in the aesthetic impact at the
Yeah,
target.
and
And those sketches.
it gives you the relationships, the spatial relationships of things at the target. Yeah. Mhm.
Yeah, it's so helpful. It really is a helpful way. So don't worry, Derek, if you sketch like a 3-year-old. I always used to share when I would do my classes, in my basic classes, I still do. I share a sketch that our 3-year-old grandson made of Jim, my husband Jim, and it's just a big circle with ears, and big glasses and a little dot and a little smile, and then there's 2 sticks that are the legs and 2 sticks that are arms. There's no hands or feet, and there's no body, just a gigantic head with sticks. And that is really how the subconscious mind often sees, I think. And so I
Mhm.
use it as kind of a depiction of the perfect way that the subconscious mind sees things. It just blows up everything that's important and kind of minimizes things that it doesn't consider important. And that's how sketches tend to be as well. We tend to blow up the things that are important and
Yeah.
minimize the things that are not important.
Benjamin just asked a good question, and I'd like to see your answer too.
What
Uh,
do
See if I can find it. Benjamin, can you describe how to get out of session or out of there and delink?
delink?
Yeah.
Okay. So that's a good question. That's a really good question. So when we talk about delinking, I like to think of it more like detoxing because to me, anytime you do a session that involves any living thing, you can really link up with that thing. And if I can just share a really quick story, a lot of my students have heard this story, but if there's a lot of people here that might not be my students, but when I was working on a kidnapping case, and so in working on this kidnapping case, I found out that there were several kidnapped victims besides the one I was supposedly trying to help. And so there were several kidnapped victims. They were all being held in this underground bunker, and there was this hallway, and there was a guard in the hallway. And I really linked up with this guard and got to know this guard over a period of weeks and months because I was viewing over a long extended period. And eventually I got to know this guard so well that in a really being linked up with this guard, I said, "Why are you kidnapping people?" And the guard quickly shared the philosophy of the whole organization. And it wasn't in words, it comes like a photon of information that's suddenly in your head. And suddenly you just have this total understanding and you're seeing through the eyes of this person that you're remote viewing. And I looked up at Jim and I said, "Jim, I think we're on the wrong side of this thing." Because suddenly I had bought into their philosophy, hook, line, and sinker in that moment. And Jim just looked at me and said, "Does someone need to detox?" Which is, like, you think? But, definitely needed to detox. So, Lynn teaches a great method of detoxing that I think he would do a better job of explaining than I would. But we kind of call it the unzipper method. But,
Yeah.
also, I found, though, that if you're really sucked in at a target, before you can even do the unzipper method, you have to kinda get away from the target for a little while, because for me, the minute I look back at my paper with my handwriting on it, I'm sucked right back in. So I have to get away and go for a walk, take a bath, take a shower, play some music, do something to totally break away from the target and, like, as you said, Derek, de-link from it. And then once you're totally de-linked, totally kind of disconnected from it, then you can do the unzipper method, which I'd like to pass to Lynn so he can explain. This is his development, so I'd like for him to share it.
Okay. Well, in CRV, you write down everything. And so in CRV, the way to detox is um, um, using the zipper method. Okay. Here's you, here's the other person, and you've gotten entangled. All right. And so you start at your last perception and you say, was that person or me? Well, it was that person. Okay. And you separate yourself from that. Then you go to the perception before that. Was it that person or me? And you slowly go back up through your session, separating yourself from the other person. And you just unzip yourself from them. Now, that's different, though, from ending a session. Uh, you'll do a session, and then you end the session. Hopefully, you write your summary and all that, and you're finished, right? And then the rest of the day, you start thinking about it. Oh, and what I should have written. Oh, yeah, I didn't write and all this. That you didn't end the session. You're still working it, and you've got to learn that at some point when you write in session and write the time, you're finished with that session. Now then you get back to your own life rather than the life of some target or something like that. And that comes with practice and training. And and many times that comes from having the bad experience of not being able to get rid of a target. And and it mainly comes with experience. Yeah.
That's great. Thank you so much, Lynn. And Lynn, sometimes when we're viewing, like you could start a session feeling perfectly fine, and then somewhere along all of a sudden you're thinking about something that happened 10 years ago and it's
Mhm.
irritating you and it's making you mad. And then you start realizing, hey, I wasn't mad when I started the session, but now I'm
Mhm.
really angry. And this anger came up out of nowhere. And then you realize, oh, the target person's angry. And when the gestalt of that anger comes through to me, I pick it up as my anger, and I'm
Yeah.
actually chewing on something in my own life that
Yeah.
made me mad 10 years ago. So now when we're doing the untangling, it's like, okay, is this anger mine or theirs? Well, they're angry and I'm angry because now I really am angry, right? So how do you deal with that when they're angry and you're angry and you weren't angry when you started? You know you've picked up on their anger, but you can't say, well, they're angry, but I'm not. So how do you handle that? Like they're angry and now I'm angry.
Okay. Their angry situation reminds you of an angry situation that you have sublimated all this time. It brings it up, and you're feeling your anger as well as theirs because the two relate so well. Let me give you an example of this. I was doing a session one time, and there was this car involved in it, and I cued with color, and the car was this strange color. Okay. And all of a sudden, I felt just overwhelming guilt. And, uh, and I didn't know why. And I went ahead and finished the session. And the guilt I was feeling seemed to have nothing whatever to do with the target. So afterwards, I did a session on why I felt guilt and took the time to do the session and realized when I was, what, young, centuries ago, um, and first got my driver's license, I was driving by myself for the first day with nobody in the car with me. I ran a stop sign, and this woman in this strange colored car slammed on her horn at me, and I did something that I would never, ever do in my life. I gave her the finger and grinned and drove on. I didn't realize that I have felt guilty about that since I was a teenager.
Hmm.
I felt guilty about it. I worked it out. Hey, I was a stupid kid. Now I'm a stupid adult. I was a stupid kid. Forgive yourself. And the guilt went away. But I didn't realize that all these years, sublimated way down inside my subconscious mind, was the guilt of having done that. And many times when you're doing these sessions, especially when you're working with people and it brings something up from your past that you have feelings about,
Mhm.
it brings up sublimated stuff. And yeah, this CRV can be a whole lot trickier than just doing a session. Yeah,
It really is, and it's an amazing self-discovery tool because you do find out stuff that you
yeah,
sublimated and it bubbles up and so sometimes you have to work through that thing that bubbled up
yeah, yeah,
before you can thoroughly unzip in a way.
yeah,
You have to kind of
yeah,
deal with that so that you can really so we're still on that question about delinking, which I think came from Benjamin.
yeah.
And so yeah, so that's that's kind of how that works. There's a ton of questions that we've
Ella,
skipped over. Let me see.
Ella had a good one.
Yeah, go ahead.
What's the difference between remote viewing and psychic reading? Psychic reading might be faster with almost no energy expended, and RV takes a long time and lots of energy. A normal person not working RV doesn't have time for RV. I can use my psychic intuition to get information about anything within seconds, a split of a second. So why would I need to do the whole laborious RV thing?
Good question.
We have good answers too.
We have some real good answers.
Yeah. One, it's controlled remote viewing. Your psychic ability is under your control. The stuff you get in a split second is from your subconscious mind, and it's rarely with fine details. The details of it are generally left up to your conscious mind, whereas with working it out in a structured methodology, you can get details. We have managed to draw the floor plans of the building where hostages have been held, so that the rescuers can go in and get the hostage without getting the hostage killed. We have been able to um, uh, draw the circuit boards of new developments that are being done in other countries. We can, this is not easy, but we have been able to actually read documents that are locked in safes halfway around the world. You can't
We've
do that
given,
as psychic. It takes
yeah,
time, but it takes work.
we've given GPS coordinates to archaeologists and told them what they would
Oh, yeah.
find there when they're
Yeah.
looking for things. We've done a lot of things, and I want to say that among my students, I have some very well-known, very successful psychics and
Mhm.
mediums that
Same here.
already
Yeah.
were that were successful before they ever heard of remote viewing.
Oh, yeah.
So, like, when I asked, for example, when I asked Pam Coronado, why Pam, you had TV shows and you were well known before you ever started taking remote viewing, and Pam has taken basic, intermediate, and advanced at least probably 3 times each between you, me, and Paul Smith. She's taken all those courses
Yeah.
repeatedly. And I said, Pam, why would you do that? And she said, for one thing, it's increased my psychic ability by 400%.
Oh, yeah.
And then she said, and it has taught me that I don't have to have perfect conditions to get information. I can get it on the fly whenever I need to. And it's helped me to control it and get tons of detail that I didn't get before. So this is something that, and I taught a class one time where I taught a 5-day marathon intermediate and advanced class in California, in the Los Angeles area. And I had several really well known established psychics in the course. And at the end of the project that we were doing, they had close to 200 perceptions about the target with 98% accuracy. And that's an unbelievably beyond chance. And generally speaking, most of the psychics that I have worked with, and I've even done psychic readings before, Ella. I've worked as a medium, I've worked as a psychic, and I can tell you that the information I got was unbelievable. But I really believe I was using a different part of my brain. And
Yeah.
when I've done CRV, the amount of detail I get and the way that I can control it is so much stronger than when I'm just doing a psychic reading or a mediumship, even though I've done some outstanding stuff in that too. It's totally different. It comes almost feels like it's coming from different channels, and it's a whole different way. It's just so different from CRV. And I'm still sold on CRV as the method of choice. Psychic stuff is great when you can get information
Oh,
instantly.
yeah.
And it's a wonderful tool.
I'm envious of that.
It's great, and it's saved my life many times, but at the same time, when I really wanna get detailed information and write a thorough report for a customer, and I have to choose between, well, should I just do, like, a psychic reading or should I do CRV? I choose
Yeah.
CRV every time because I can give methodical, really clear instructions or really clear detail about whatever the question is. So
Yeah.
that's the
And
difference, that's the big one.
my I was brought in because of my PK ability. And I've had psychic experiences, but not much, you know. And one of the things about CRV is it was never designed for psychics. It was designed for people who don't have the ability to do the psychic work, you know, to just get that snap information. It lets them do it. And I know some of the best remote viewers I have, you know, as students are the people who have who are good natural psychics. And when I find out that they're a good natural psychic, I say, hey, keep that, use it. It works for you. But once you've used that, if you then you want to get some control over it and start getting finer and finer details, I will now teach you control rather than controlled remote viewing. And so it gives them control over what they can do. But the fact is that CRV was not meant for psychics. It was meant to teach, to grab some soldier off the battlefield, teach it to him, and have him be able to tell what's over the hill, where to point the guns, who's going to be shooting at you and when, things like this. And to get those fine details. So that's the basic difference. And
Yes.
I would say, like you said, use both. If you have the ability to get that snap psychic impression, hey, don't give that up. That's like I say, I envy that.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely a gift, you know, if you have
Oh
the
yeah,
ability, definitely use it. And actually, I do a lot of exercises with my students to help them kind of have some instant success as well.
yeah,
There are those who, like Lynn mentioned, who have a natural ability, and then there are those who've said, "I don't think I have a psychic bone in my body." But believe it or not, it's really helpful
yeah,
when you can when you don't think you have any ability and you can still be able to become a world-class remote viewer.
yeah.
And it's really helpful when you do have some natural ability and you can use them both to the best of your advantages, you know.
Uh, one
Remember.
time, one time in class, Pam Carnado was there, and uh, I had a stack of targets that I hadn't seen, and I put the stack out and had someone just randomly pick a target out of the stack and not show it to me, but they passed it around the class, and Pam was looking at it, you know, and so I did a session up on the board, and when I finished, Pam came up and she said, "How did you do that?" She said,
Mhm.
I could have gotten the major things, the important things about that site, but you gave me how they were dressed, what they were doing, what the texture of the thing was that they were working with, and all this, and the roughness of the surface and all that. And she said, "How do you do that?" I said, "What I was trained to do." You know.
Yeah, that's so true. So it is. I do believe it is a superior technique, especially when emotions are involved.
Oh,
You know, one thing I love about CRV is that the methodicalness of it, and you know, having a place to put everything. The structure sometimes holds me up when my emotions maybe wouldn't let me
yeah.
just
Yeah.
naturally be naturally psychic. Like, you know, like I've had a lot of times where I've gotten psychic information unbidden, you know, or spontaneously. But when it comes to the high emotions, you know, where there's something happening, to sit down and go, okay, I'm just going to bury myself in the structure right now and let the structure carry me, that I've seen really can kind of outweigh some of the times when I was just hoping I could just be naturally psychic and,
Yeah.
you know, just
Well,
get.
on a practical basis too, if you have a project manager who's working with 10 or 20 psychics and each one is doing their own thing, the job of a project manager is misery because each one's using different terminology, they're using different method, they're using different ways of reporting. And one of the practical things about CRV is that the structure is the same for everybody. You have the 100th monkey thing where everybody doing the same way, everybody works better. You also have the fact that the reports you turn in are in the same format. The project manager can do their job in 1 hour that it would take them 1 day to do with 20 psychics. And so, they're practical features too. But like I say, if you're good at both, use both. Yeah.
Yes, and I wanted to address, Lilia asked about practicing. Lilia, I think there's a blog in my blogs, Mary might be able to post it here, that that it talks about all the different ways to practice. Because when I started learning from Lynn, I was a busy mom with a full-time job that was crazy 24/7 and writing grants and taking care of refugees. Plus, I had given birth to 7 children and had a bunch of extras that showed up that I was raising as well. And so I had a really crazy full-time life, that was never at peace. And I found that I just had to keep stuff with me all the time to practice. There's no set rule on how often is the best to practice because everyone's schedule is different. But I do suggest that, if you always keep some paper and a pen with you, or if you use a remarkable tablet or whatever to remote view on, then you could practice on the fly. Like if you're on the subway and you're sitting there for 30 minutes, or you're waiting in the dentist's office or whatever, waiting for a plane at the airport, you can get a lot of practice time in. So that's a good way to
Yeah.
keep that up. So let's see. So that was one thing. I like what Monica said. She said CRV helped improve my natural ability, especially using AOLs to cut through my own personal biases and experiences. That's
Yeah.
something that I found too, is that for example, Pam Cornata told me a story where she was working on a murder case with the police, and she said, "Oh my God, he's stabbing her with a knife." And the policeman said, "No, he's not stabbing her with a knife. He was hitting her with a baseball bat." And
Oh,
she saw this motion and she turned it into a knife, right?
yeah.
She turned
Mhm.
that motion into a knife. And that's what I see a lot with the natural psychics who work with me, is sometimes there's that tendency. We all do it. All of us do it, where we see a piece of truth and we turn it into a fairy tale castle. And that's what we call castle building.
Yeah.
And so that kind of thing, learning to set aside nouns is one of the best things that a natural psychic can learn,
Yeah.
because the nouns are going to carry your stereotypes and your prejudices and your
Yeah.
opinions and a lot and your guesses, and all the things that'll
One of
lead you
the
astray.
one of the best examples I've seen of that, we had a top, very famous natural psychic come into the unit one time and said, "Give me a practice target, sealed in envelope. I'll tell you what it is." And he said, "Okay, I see this sealed place, this closed room is sealed off from everything else. There are people in white garb, and they're wearing." And he went on to describe everything in the room, and was 100% accurate. And then he said, "And in this hospital, there are, because he had these people in the white garb operating table, like tables and all that. And in this hospital," and then he started describing all the disease and everything else. The target was the clean room where they make the computer chips at Microsoft. And yet, the
Ah,
minute he said, "and in this hospital," it was over, you know.
in the hospital, it was over. I'm sorry, I missed that last
Oh,
part.
his session was over. I mean, it
Oh,
was
yeah,
it was garbage from then on. Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
The
and
minute
also
he jumped to a conclusion. Yeah.
yeah, it's true. It's true. Like you once said, and I memorized this quote from you. You once said that nouns are the period at the end of the perceptual sentence. So my son showed up one day and he said, "Mom, there's this show coming on right now. I want to watch it with you." It was called Psychic Detectives. So we sat down, and in the thing they were looking for a murderer, and the psychic said, the murderer drives something. I mean, the murderer works with something mechanical that
Mhm.
revolves like a merry-go-round. And then all the detectives went searching all the carnivals, but when they finally found the murderer, it turned out he was driving a cement truck, which is mechanical and revolves, but it's not a
Yeah,
merry-go-round. But the
right.
minute she said the word, the noun merry-go-round, she sent all the police off on a wild goose chase, right?
That's right.
So
Yeah.
that's nouns can really lead many sessions astray. So I've watched some really good famous mediums who will go off on a noun and totally derails all their information. And
I
I've
have,
watched them do it on television, and I'm just kind of like, oh, this guy would
yeah,
benefit so much from taking a CRB class. you know,
taking a monitor's course, yeah.
yeah, yeah. And so yes, and let's see, and then oh, and Jeannie says, I'm interested in using CRB in conjunction with genealogical research. Have you any advice for doing so? Do you
Do
have
you?
anything, Lynn? I don't. I do not. I've had a lot of people write me and ask me if I would if I would do a session to help them find, the mystery to what happened to their great grandmother, in
Oh, yeah,
1850 or whatever.
yeah,
And I'm like, I could do a session, but you would probably never get feedback to find out if the information I gave you is accurate or not.
yeah,
I mean, I have a track record, but still, it's
yeah,
I take it with a grain of salt, and so to me it's a little bit iffy, that whole
yeah.
thing.
I haven't ever been tasked with any genealogical targets, so I'm not really familiar with the problems and the solutions about that that specific type of viewing. What you would exactly view for, would it be location? Would it be describe the person or whatever? However, we have found that your conscious mind works best present tense. Your subconscious mind doesn't care about time. And
Mhm.
so this works with natural psychics too, by the way. You never task a remote viewer or a natural psychic with what happened to my grandmother. You say, move back to my grandmother's time. Now, what do you see happening? You'll get more information and it will be more accurate because you have moved their subconscious mind in time and left their conscious mind talking present tense. It's a simple, practical thing, but it works.
It definitely is. Now, in regard to the question on genealogy, we did do a major project helping a guy find his birth mother. And that what turned out to be a very positive, wonderful thing.
Oh, yeah.
Um, and so we did help him find his birth mother, and that was unbelievable. Some of the things that came out of that session that were
Oh,
so
yeah.
as remote viewers, we were able to give the street that she was living on, the name of the street.
Mm.
That we were able to describe the town that she was staying in, what her name was, and what they called her, and all kinds of interesting things came out of that one.
Yeah.
But genealogy is a whole nother story, really. So I'm
Gail,
not sure that.
Gail did one of those too. And come to find out, the guy who was wanting his birth mother, he was adopted at birth. And there was no record whatever of who the parent was. And any records that were there were sealed, but they searched all the way through, couldn't find anything in the U.S. Come to find out, he was adopted at birth in another country and had no knowledge of that at all. And Gail and her team located the mother, joined them together, and 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 um, they're very happy now.
That's the session I was referring to. I was a viewer on that
That's
project.
right. That was you. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Huh?
yes. And so yeah, it was a great project. That was an amazing. I love some of the things that Gail's able to come up with.
Yeah.
Um, and Arnaldo asks, "What do you think about closing your eyes when we don't draw ideograms, Arnaldo? We let the ideogram happen spontaneously. It sort of comes out of your hand, but we never want to use the word draw." Ingo was really against using the word draw, according to Tom, because he wanted it to be so spontaneous, right? We just want it to come directly from the subconscious. So we don't draw ideograms, we let them happen.
Yeah.
Um, and and as far as closing your eyes or keeping them open for that part of the process, I don't personally think that part matters. It's really important to keep your eyes open when you're viewing, because I think that all the visual information kind of keeps your conscious mind busy, so that your
Yeah.
subconscious can get information. Whereas when you close your eyes, you start imagining a lot of things, and boy, your conscious mind starts drumming up all kinds of pictures for you, which can impede what you're trying to do. So, we but just for that little moment where you're doing your enneagram, if you close your eyes, I don't think it's gonna matter much. What do you think, Lynn?
I don't think so. No. But it's been shown that when you close your eyes, not when you blink, but when you close your eyes like that, you get ahead of alpha waves, and those alpha waves will overpower your subconscious mind. Yeah.
Good to know. That's really good. Um, and then Benjamin says, so the emotional induction triggers the associated emotional pathway tied to the viewer's personal memory. Oh, I know.
It can. Sure.
Yes, yeah, I mean, because I think that goes back to what we were talking about when sublimated things bubble to the surface
Yeah.
when you're
Uh-huh.
remote viewing. And I mean, basically, the way I describe it is we're kind of stirring the subconscious pot when we're
Mhm.
doing CRV. We stir that pot, and as a former hypnotist, when you stir the subconscious pot, a lot of flotsam floats to the top, right?
Yeah.
Like when you boil a chicken and all that scum floats to the top, and you have to
Yeah.
kind of scrape it off. So that's kind of what happens, I think, with CRV.
Yeah.
Um,
Ingo Swan identified uh, 18 to 20 different kinds of AOLs, totally different aspects of AOLs, totally different types of AOLs. One of them is what I, in the unit, uh, pulled out and said, I think we need to, this gets treated so differently as an AOL from the others that we need to single it out. And I called it a stray cat. The subconscious transfer of recollections, anxieties, and yearnings. In other words, memories, fears, and desires. That is a special type of AOL that comes from your memory, from your sublimated fears and desires. And other ones, analytic overlay, comes from your logical mind. Oh, red, round, rubbery. Oh, I think it's a ball. But, you know, this one type of AOL is what I call stray cat. Stray cat is subliminal transfer of recollections, anxieties, and yearnings to consciously accessible thought. That's a hard way to do it, but it works. And you treat them differently, and you break them out differently. And because one is from your personal experience, and the other is just from your logic. Yeah.
yeah, it's so true. And I love the term stray cats, the acronym stray cat.
Yeah.
I think that it encompasses so many things. And so I had a student ask me once, this isn't part of these questions, but I had a student ask me, well, why is it important for us to differentiate between a stray cat and an AOL? And I don't know that it's that important, but I find that it just helps in the overall understanding of everything that CRV encapsulates and everything that's happening to us when we're going through this path. And one thing that my team and I have been learning as we've been working really intensely with a small group of students, 18 students, excuse me, who joined a certification program that we did it's a 3-year certification to become professional remote viewers and work in some capacity, because that's what we hear all the time is like, how could I do this professionally? How could I earn a living from this? So we had created this certification program, and we have these students that are going through it right now, and what we're learning from it, what we as the instructors are learning from it, is that there are certain milestones that every person on this CRV journey, if they really stick with it and they really practice, there are milestones that everybody experiences. Just like when you're watching a baby progress, the baby lifts up its head at a certain time and rolls over at a certain time and starts crawling at a certain time. You expect these milestones when you're watching a baby's development. We've learned that there are milestones with remote viewers that you can count on that I used to think were unique to each viewer, but they're not. They're
No.
really part of that process.
Yeah. And how each viewer handles that that milestone is individual, but the milestones are there. Yeah.
There are. Karen asked, is there a blog on the difference? There's not a blog, but there is a handout that Lynn actually wrote up years and years ago called Stray Cats and AOLs. And it's a handout that all my students get. They still get that. I don't know if any of them ever read it, but I always am encouraging them to read it because I think it really helps us
Yeah.
understand. And Cindy said, I keep hitting plateaus, but you said keep going. So every single day I do a coordinate. That's good, Cindy. I'm glad you're keeping at it. You may be in a slump when those plateaus are slumps that we call them slumps, but they're
Yeah.
important parts of your development. The slump is
They are.
really an important a part of your development, and it's really helpful because it teaches you about yourself, those slumps, and you work out things on a subconscious level when you're in the slump.
Yeah.
And
And one thing you'll find out is that you hit a plateau, and right before you go to the next plateau, you will generally have pretty much of a crash. Okay. You just get dog meat sessions, 2 or 3 of them, maybe even up to 20 sessions. Your subconscious is working things out. Once it gets them worked out, you go up to the next plateau. So you're working on the plateau, and all of a sudden everything just turns to trash. Treasure that. That means your mind is doing something important and working something out. Quite often, it's not working out something about CRV. And you hit the next plateau, and if you pay close attention, you'll realize that something else in your life, not associated with CRV, improves. It's a neat process. Really
It
is.
really is. It is, and it's worth the pain and agony you might go through on the way there.
Yeah.
I remember one time calling up and saying, I had written you this huge apology letter because I was sending you a session that you asked for. And I said, oh, Lynn, I'm so sorry. This is so terrible. And I know you expect more from me and da, da, da. And then you wrote back and you said, Lori, that was 100% session. And I said, then why did it feel so miserable? I felt like I was so off target. And you said, well, if it feels good, don't do it.
Yeah. Yeah.
I was like, "Oh, no." But I do wanna say for people that it does get better. I mean, it didn't stay a miserable thing forever. It got better and better. And, Kathleen Torps has been reading Lynn's book this week. Yay, great book, by the way. I think you said there were 6 exercises for ambiance. I know Lori did one in the recent masterclass. What are some of the others, or did I miss that in the book?
There are
Oh, that's a good
there are
question.
20 steps to the ambiance exercise. There are 6 exercises in the back of the book. Only one of them is the ambiance exercise. Yeah.
Yeah, so Kathleen, the 6 exercises in the back of the book are not the first 6 exercises of the ambiance exercise.
No.
The ambiance exercise in the back of the book is step 1 of the 20 steps to the ambiance exercise. And Lynn and I are planning to actually put out a book together about the 20 steps. And we're going to be working towards that so that it's really going to be a book by Lynn with me just helping to tweak it so that we can publish it. And we
And
just want to get it published quickly.
and let me tell everybody ahead of time that learning the 20 steps, you master each step before you go to the next one. And if you do it correctly, what will, if the 20 steps are in the book, don't read the book straight through and think you got them. If you do it correctly on the ambiance exercise, the 20 steps may take you 15 to 20 years to master. and you don't move to the next step until you've mastered the one before it. So you get this book, plan to keep it, plan to work your way through it over years of time. Yeah.
Yes, and, Daniel, I'm not sure which book you were asking about. I thought I was responding because I thought you were asking what's the name of the book on the 20 steps of ambiance, and I said we haven't written it yet, so it doesn't have a title yet. But Lyn's book is called The Seventh Sense. Lyn's main book on CRV. He's got several books out, right, Lyn? But the book on the how, well, it's not really how to, but it's a really great book. Lyn's book on Seventh Sense
I think.
is such a good book. It's got so many good things. It's got all the CRV terminology in it. It's got some analogies in it. It's got his story, which is just like a page turner that you just don't want to put it down. It's really well written, and it's got a, it kind of really encapsulates CRV. And when I started teaching on my own, I made Lyn's book a prerequisite before people could come take the class. And on my website, it suggests read Lyn's book before you do anything with trying to learn CRV. And then I wrote a book called Boundless, Your How-To Guide to Practical Remote Viewing Phase 1, which is really encapsulates the first 8 hours of my 3-day class on basic CRV. And it's a how-to book. I'm working on the second Phase 2 book. I'm working on, and it's not the second Phase 2 book. I'm working on the second book of the series, which is about Phase 2. And I'm about halfway through with that. So that will be Boundless 2. We're going to call that Boundless 2, and it will be the next book in the series. And then I have also written a book on monitoring, and Jim and I are working on creating a video course in monitoring. So anyway, so that's that. That's all I know. That's what I just wanted to respond because I wasn't sure what book Daniel was asking about. Um, Cindy says, all the books are very good. We want more. It's never enough, Lynn. It's never enough. So, yes. And Dax says, love the Seventh Sense. Yes. And Lynn, Mary put a link to the Seventh Sense if you want to buy it.
Good deal.
And so it's right there. And thank you, Lynn. Not an overnight class.
Yeah.
Okay. And Kathleen says, got it. Thanks. Looking forward to it. Laura says, this is really awesome information. Catherine says, when do you plan to publish the book? As soon as we can, Catherine. As soon as we can. We've got a million irons in the fire,
Yeah.
and we always feel like we're a day late and a dollar short, don't we, Lynn? Lynn and I
Oh,
get on the phone together and commiserate about how far behind we are on everything.
oh yeah.
Um,
My 300 and some odd videos that I've made for the online courses so far have just taken up all my time. And I'll, after this iteration of the intermediate course, I'm going to take a sabbatical and just finally get back to writing some books, doing my artwork, writing poetry, stories, cutting gemstones,
oh, yes.
and living the life again. Uh,
Yeah.
this green screen is coming down.
Because you have been filming nonstop for like 2 years, it seems like.
Oh yeah,
Just nonstop filming.
yeah,
So yeah, good for you. That's so important. It's important that we learn to live, and that's something that I'm learning too. Is I constantly feel this pressure, like I need to get more done. I need to, the students need more, and but I'm also finding out that every day I have to live. Like I'm really enjoying my time with Jim and spending time with him, and I constantly am reminding myself, hey, you never know how long this person's going to be with you or you're going to be with them. So make sure you take advantage of that and enjoy our time together. So now when I play hooky for a few hours, I don't feel guilty anymore. It's like, this is something you need to do to keep your stamina up too, to not be working 24/7. Because I have done plenty of weeks where I worked 14 days in a row at working, 15 to 18 hours a day. And it's just, I'm the worst boss I ever worked for, I can tell you that. But so don't do that. Yes, that's so important. And Chris Randall says, enjoy your sabbatical. And then Lindley asks, are the videos of Lynn on YouTube or somewhere? Do you want to tell them about your
oh,
videos and how to get them, Lynn?
they're for the class, and you have to sign up for the courses for those. And I've been wanting to also put videos up on YouTube. I just haven't gotten around to it. but there are some good generic things, and the analogies that explain the deeper things in remote viewing. I want to put those up on YouTube. I've just been working so hard on these videos to get the courses finished that I haven't had time to eat or breathe.
Yes, and Lilia, there's a free masterclass on my website if you just want to check out what CRV is like. I
Yeah.
teach the way Lyn taught me, and so you can. And Mary just put a link to Lyn's courses right there. crviewer.micahjabi.com.
Mhm.
And Lilia says, thanks. I took it. It was great. Good deal. And
Oh,
also, we do have a YouTube channel too. Lyn, you have a YouTube channel as well, right?
I have. I don't think I've put anything up on there for 2 years. Um,
Yeah, but you have some good things on there, even though they've been there a while. You still have some good
oh
stuff on
yeah,
your YouTube channel.
yeah.
So
Uh-huh.
if you just put Lily, if you want to see Lyn on video on YouTube, just put Lyn Buchanan in the YouTube search bar, and you'll pull up a ton of videos from him. I have a ton of videos on YouTube as well. There's a lot of good juicy YouTube stuff there.
I'm gonna have to try
So
that. I don't even know what's up there.
there's a lot of good stuff. There's yeah, I YouTube you.
Oh,
So uh so anyway, let's see. And so and then Mary put a link to the free masterclass. Chris, thank you. That's great. I hope you enjoy it. Tell me how you like it. And
a
so
lot of
yeah, so
good
I guess
reports. A lot of good
wait, I'm
reports.
sorry.
I've heard
Oh,
a lot
thank
of good
you.
reports about your masterclass. Yeah.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. Well, yeah, I mean it's kind of like the speed course in trigonometry. If you drop your pencil, you miss a lot, you know. And so I was like, how can I get a lot in 4 short hours? You know,
Yeah.
it's pretty short. But anyway, oh, it says Laura says there seemed to be a lot of pressure on professional psychics to come up with something or several perceptions and interpretations. Does it cause them to misinterpret things into nouns? And do you think people should even do that work professionally? Sure, I think I know a lot of professional psychics that are really good and have done a lot of really good work. I think there's nothing wrong with it. It's just a different method. You know, whether you're doing psychic readings or mediumship or CRV or tarot. Somebody asked way at the beginning. Somebody asked if ideograms was the same as automatic writing, and definitely not at all like automatic writing.
Uh-uh.
Lyn, I mean, actually, you know, I don't think either you or I are really experts on automatic writing, so I'm not sure how well we could truly speak to the difference. But we can talk thoroughly about ideograms and what they are. I can't
Um,
necessarily talk about automatic writing.
in the unit, we had a woman who was really good at automatic writing, and I had wondered about it. And one day at lunch, she said, "Okay, I'm going to teach you automatic writing." And so she gave me a pen and paper, and she pulled a target, and she said, "Okay, go ahead." And I said, "Okay, what do I do?" She said, "Just let it happen." And let what happened and all that. You know, I needed instruction. And she kept saying, "No, you're fighting it. Just let it happen." Finally, I handed her the pen and said, "I'm going to lunch. If it happens while I'm gone, would you write it down for me?" And I left. Uh, you know, I had no idea what to do. And just let it happen is not good instruction. Yeah.
Yeah, that's so true. Oh, guys, you guys asked so many great questions. Oh, um, and then Mary put in a YouTube channel. Mary, I don't think is that Intuitive Specialist YouTube channel. There is, if you want to find my YouTube channel, you have to actually put Intuitive Specialist in the search bar of YouTube. So Mary, if you wanted to put that link in there, that'd be great. I don't know what this channel is. Let me just look at what Mary posted here. Oh yeah. Oh, there it is. It is. That is the link. Mary posted the link to you. Oh, sorry. Where did you guys go? I lost everybody all of a sudden. I can't see anyone. Hold on. There it is. Okay. Sorry. Anyway, Mary did post the link to the YouTube channel. And then Monica asked, "Are there any classes happening in person this year?" Yes, we have a basic live in-person class coming up in June, Monica, and it's Mary put the link to our calendar there. Anyway, let's see what else. Okay, so just so you know that we do still have live in-person classes going on, and I really like though the video classes. A lot of people might not feel like a video class is that great, but the video classes, Lynn and I both feel are really turning out to be really well because we were able to cover things in the video class that we often don't have time to cover in a 3-day live class, too. So just so
And
you know,
like for the basic course, I would have 3 days, 3 8-hour days here. For the basic course on Kajabi, I have 140 videos, and there was no way I could cover even a portion of that in 3 days of class. So it's allowing us to get more information to people. Yeah.
that's great. Well, guys, and for those of you, several of you have been put in the chat that you wanted to know more about the certification program. We opened enrollment for the certification program 4 times from February of 2021 till February of 2022, and we actually reached capacity with that. And so we are now pondering when to open enrollment again, and we are probably going to restructure the program somewhat. But anyway, so I don't really like to talk about the certification program right now, just mainly because it's not something I'm offering like at this moment. So it's something that we opened up for 4 times, and we opened it up with each basic class. And so if we do open it again, it would be in June when we do another basic class. We'll see. Anyway, and then Kathleen asks, are there big differences between our basic course programs? I doubt that there's huge differences because I teach it exactly the way Lynn taught me.
Yeah,
And
and
so
there's one major difference, and that is mine is videos with a webinar, and yours is more in person.
oh, well, no, actually, well,
But
I actually have a
the
6-week,
material is the same thing. Yeah.
yeah, no, I have a 6-week video course that's
Oh,
set up,
you?
that's a base.
I didn't
Yeah, I
know
have
that.
yes, you did, Lynn. You just
I didn't
forgot.
know you had finished. I knew you were
I have
working. I didn't know you had finished it.
No, no. Oh, no, I finished it, years ago. I have the
Oh, really?
basic that's kind of my main bread and butter, actually. I have the
Oh.
6-week video basic course, and then I have a 6-week video intermediate course,
Hmm.
and we're working on the 6-week advanced and the 6-week ARV
Very
courses.
good.
But, yeah, so but as far as the differences between them, I mean, the biggest difference is that it's in our personalities. I mean, we both have the same integrity, the same concern about our students. We both teach the same structure because Lynn taught me, so I teach the same structure he teaches. And so there's no real big differences in content. It's just mainly in teaching style. Lynn's a former military guy and he's a man, and I'm a bubbly woman. Lynn, I had this guy write me after watching the free master class, and he goes, "Is that really how you teach? Like all bubbly like that?" And I was like, yeah, that's kind of how I teach. He's like, "Oh, okay, that's not for me." It's like,
I've been told that.
I
Yeah, I've been told
well,
I'm not as pretty as she is too. So
he was like, "I don't like the bubbly." I'm like, "You need to take it from Lynn or from Paul Smith if you don't like bubbliness. It's
yeah.
I'm a little too bubbly." And Mel Riley used to say to me all the time, "You're going to be known as the fun CRV teacher." He used to tell me that, "Oh, you're going to be known as the fun CRV teacher." And I really do. I mean, that is something I do work a lot at. Sense of humor. We laugh a lot. I don't, that's something. But we used to laugh a lot in your classes too. We used to come up with a lot of
Yeah.
fun stuff. And I always thought your classes were a lot of fun. Not to mention fascinating. But
Tara Lee,
anyway, so yeah.
Dave's last name is Morehouse. He's good. He was a member of the unit. He's a great viewer. Yeah.
Oh, that's great. Okay, that's awesome. All right, guys. And and Constance is telling that she's taken my basic and intermediate 6-week courses. and she wanted you to know they're both fabulous. And
Good. I
and she's
would
waiting.
expect it to be, yeah. Uh-huh.
That's great. Guys, thank you guys so much. Lynn, thank you for your time, for taking
Oh,
this
thank you.
time with us every month to do this for free for everybody. We really,
Yeah,
really
it's
appreciate
been neat. Yeah.
everybody's time. It's been so much fun, and really I just love it. And I agree with you, Jeannie. It needs to be part of our school curriculum. That's for sure. And Ray, thanks for being here from Ireland. I hope we get to see you again someday. Anyway, really fun. Ryan Montgomery, glad to see you. Good to see you guys. It's good to see all these familiar names, Constance and Needs, Dax, all you wonderful people. We love you. And Cindy, we'll see you guys soon. Thanks so much.